Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fly Fishing Academy today. So there has been a ton of content leading up to what we're about to do right now. And if you are new, if this is your first episode in the Fly Fishing Academy, please go to my channel, look at the playlist that says the Fly Fishing Academy with Gregg. And you'll see gear, discussions on gear in there. You'll see discussions on knots. And now we're getting into rigging. And so if any of these knots, and I'll let you know along the way which knots you're going to be needing, are unfamiliar to you, you can just refer back to the Fly Fishing Academy. You can go into the knots section and you can look at all the knots that I have placed there for you. And so we can kind of move through this video a little bit quicker. This video is not about knots. This video is how to build the three basic nymph rigs, what I would say, in fly fishing. And they're all variations from here. You can play with them and make them your own and do whatever you want to do. But I want to show you how to build what I think are the three kind of foundational nymph rigs that you're going to hear about in fly fishing today. So the first rig we're going to build is just kind of your basic nymph rig. And this is a nymph rig that starts with a tapered leader, okay? And today I'm going to be using a 4X leader. You don't have to use Rio. I'm using them. It's what I got right now. And you'll see I have a mixture of different companies on here. Orbis, Rio, I use Scientific Angler. Nobody's sponsoring these videos, so if someone wants to, then I can stick to their material. But until then, it's all good stuff. Pick what works for you and maybe what is most affordable, you know? So we'll take our 4X leader, fresh out of a bag. Most leaders, I like to put my hands in there, in the hole of this leader, and then just push the big sections through, okay, and then unravel it on your hands. And I like to do that because it keeps you from getting tangled. You can see there's a lot of memory in these leaders, right? This is just standard monofilament, and what I'll do is I'll pull the material straight. You don't need a line straightener. You don't need to carry that. Okay, we talked about that in materials. Go back to that when you look at all the gear sections, the gear videos in the Fly Fishing Academy. Go check that out. So look at the memory's gone. Okay, it's all straightened out now. And what we're going to do is, if you're sure that this is the length you want to use, this is a 7.5 foot leader, then you don't have to trim any materials. You can, I'm gonna have to pick those up. Those are my nippers. You can just connect your next piece of tippet right here to the end of this leader, okay? And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna trim any of the tag. I'm gonna take some more 4X tippet, okay? I'm gonna take about 2 feet. Take a little more if you're not very confident in your, I'll just use scissors since I dropped my nippers. But if you're not confident in how much tag you're going to use, you know, as you're learning to tie knots, you're going to use a lot of tippet. As you get better at it, you'll be able to waste less material, saving you money in the long run and actually using more of it for fishing. So here's my thick end of my leader over here. Okay, right out of the pack, comes with the perfection loop. If you don't know how to tie the perfection loop, refer to my other videos in the knot sections, okay? I teach you how to tie this knot. So it has a perfection loop. It goes thick. My taper leader, it starts thick. Ooh, making a mess. Hold on real quick. Get these out of the way. Okay, it starts thick and it gets thinner as it comes down. Tapered leader, right? And it ends in 4X. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just gonna tie a triple surgeon's knot right here. Okay, you can use a triple surgeon's, you can use a blood knot. I've showed you how to do both of those knots in the rigging module, okay? So I just tied a triple surgeon's knot right there, okay? And the reason we have a knot right here is because in a standard nymph rig, we're gonna actually add a split shot right above that knot. Okay, so trim your tag ends. I show you how to do that in the knot videos as well. Okay, you don't have to trim them right up to the knot. You can leave tiny little tags because this might tighten on you, right, during a fight. And if it does, maybe you want to have a little bit of insurance in case that knot slips just a little bit more. Okay, make sure you wet your knot before you tighten it. And now I have my tapered leader. Okay, put that over here. And I have a length of tippet that I added, a little over 2 feet, and I have a knot. Okay, so I forgot my flies. Let me go get my flies. Hold up. So from our tapered leader, we've attached a strand of tippet. This tapered leader was a 4X tippet, 4X in size. And so I'm coming off of that with another piece of 4X. You could use 5. You could potentially even go to 6 if you really needed to from 4. I don't recommend it. But if you had to, you probably could. I'd recommend a blood knot in that case. Triple surgeons will work good too. But how do I say it? The larger the jump that you have in between your sections of your leader to your tippet, say, the more likely that knot is going to break, right? So the same size tippet from leader, you're in great shape, right? So I went 4X leader, 4X tippet, I have my knot right there. Now I have a section of tippet, and now I'm going to add my fly. Okay, so get a fly out of your box. I have here one of my favorites, the red copper John. It looks like I actually fished this fly last time I was on the water because it still has some tippet on there. But now we're going to attach our fly, first fly, to the terminal end of our tippet here. And you can say, okay, this is the only fly I'm fishing today. If it is, maybe you want to be 2 feet, right? So I'm going to use a clinch knot here, or an improved clinch knot. If you don't know how to tie that knot, refer to the knots in the Fly Fishing Academy, the videos, and I show you how to do that knot. Okay? Make sure you moisten your knots before you cinch them down, right? Okay, and now we have a fly connected to our rig, right? So here's our tapered leader. Here's our first connection with the triple surgeon's knot. And then here's our fly. You're ready to fish right there. Okay, but when you start talking about nymphing, and if you start Googling nymphing, you're going to see there is lots of content on nymphing and fly fishing. Okay, but one thing that is important in fly fishing is, in any fishing, right, is you need to get your bugs to where the fish are, right? So where are the fish in the column? Well, that's what you have to figure out when you go fishing. Are they at the bottom? Are they in the middle? Are they at the top? Does it change every hour? You know, it's something for you to figure out. If you were to fish this rig without any weight without a split shot here, you're relying solely on the weight of this nymph to get down into the strike zone. Sometimes that's okay. If you have a really heavy bug, sometimes that's fine, right? That is what you hear people call Euro nymphing, right? They have heavy bugs they rely on. They don't use any shot. In a true Euro Nymph Rig, there is no split shot. You know, it's just the weight of the flies. Well, sometimes you're fishing smaller bugs, and sometimes you're fishing bugs that don't have any weight, right? Or the person who tied it didn't tie any weight in. So we use split shot, right? And so you'll take to a standard nymph rig, you want to start small, right? But you want to add some split shot, okay? And a split shot is just a circular piece of lead or lead-free. A lot of times in these days they're using lead-free weight. But you'll take your split shot. Let me see if I have any forceps here. I do. So take your split shot. Don't use your teeth to put your split shot onto your rig. I say that, but I'm guilty of doing that myself. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to place the split shot above that first knot where you connected. Let me show you. So I just squeezed on the split shot. If you don't know what split shot is, refer to the Fly Fishing Academy video on split shot. I talk all about it. Okay, but let me show you. Here's the thick end of my leader. Okay, this attaches to my fly line with the loop-to-loop connection with the perfection loop. The leader tapers. It ends in a 4X size. Okay, I connected this tippet to my leader with a triple surgeon's knot. Okay, so the rig hangs down from my fly rod tip like this, thick to thin. The split shot goes above the connection, and I'll take pictures of this for you guys and show you this, but it goes above the connection, right? So here, my fly is down here, okay, in the water column. The split shot is gonna rest on top of this knot. Any guesses as to why it's on top of the knot? So it doesn't slip down, right? If you were to just connect a piece of tippet to a piece of split shot to a tippet, it's going to slide on you the moment that you cast. There's a lot of energy, momentum going towards your fly, and the shot is just going to continually slide down your rig. So that's what that is for. That knot is to keep that split shot from sliding down. Okay, so this is a standard nymph rig. Now, in a standard nymph rig, you're going to use an indicator, right? There's lots of different indicators. If you don't know what an indicator is, refer to my video on indicators in the Fly Fishing Academy in the first module. You'll see that in the playlist on my YouTube channel, okay? So for heavy bugs, if you're fishing heavy rigs, you know, these, I really do like these bobber style indicators. There's different styles. This one floats like that on top, so the fish see more of a wood, like a natural color, right? And this is what you see. But anyways, you would attach, okay, so this thick end is attached to your fly line. I'll go get a reel here in a little bit too to show you how to attach that. But you just double over your leader and you slide it right through. And I'll show you guys a close-up of that. You double that leader, slide it right through the indicator and pull it tight. And now you have a standard nymph rig. Here's the thick end. Here's your indicator, which you can move up and down depending on the depth of the river, right? And it's tapering down, it's tapering down. Let's see if I don't get us tangled here. Tapers down. You have the split shot, and then you have your fly. And that's your standard nymph rig. You just built your first nymph rig. And of course, off of this last fly, you can add another fly if you want. You can add 2 more flies. The more flies you have, casting is going to have to be much better. And you also increase the risk of knots, okay? Because you have a lot of stuff, you know, coming off the bottom here. But start with 1 fly, okay? As you feel efficient, as you feel like you're improving, you can connect another fly from this fly. You can use the bend of the hook. You can put a clinch knot with a piece of tippet off the bend of the hook, get you another piece of, where's my 4X? Here it is. Get you another piece of tippet, attach a clinch knot to the bend of your hook. It comes off, you have another piece, use another clinch knot to connect another fly, and you have a double nymph rig, okay? Super easy, guys. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? So that is the first rig that I wanted to show you, and it's just a standard, kind of just your basic nymph rig in fly fishing. So now what I want to show you how to do is I want to show you 2 variations of what you're going to hear referred to as tight-line rigs or drop shot rigs, or you'll hear Euro nymphing a lot. The funny thing to me is they call this Euro nymphing and they have all these different names. When I first showed my dad this rig, talked to him about it, and I knew what he was going to say. He was like, what do they call this? Because this really seems like bait fishing. So growing up, my dad didn't fly fish. I found fly fishing like late into high school, like junior, senior year of high school. And so I taught myself, and then I've introduced it to the family. So now we all fly fish. But my dad, when I grew up, I remember him fishing rivers in a very similar manner to what I'm about to show you. And that's what's just funny to me, is because fly fishermen think that they invented this system, and they didn't. We have kind of tricked out the process, if you will, and things are prettier and all this and that. My dad used a tight lining system with bait. And it's actually, to be honest, the tight lining system is even more efficient when you're using pure nylon. So now let me explain these 2 rigs, and we'll come back to this conversation after. But it's almost like, in a way, it's almost like just bait fishing with an open face reel. That's the way I saw my dad do it growing up. But let me show you how to do it with our stuff, with fly fishing gear, and you can make a decision on what works best for you. So with any Tight-Line rig, you want to, with the first rig I want to show you, what we want to do is we want to have what is referred to as a sighter, right? So instead of the indicator, right, that we use for the Standard Nymph Rig, we're going to use tippet material, if you want to call it that. That is, let me take this off and I'll show you. So this is a 0x spool of sighting material, right? And this one's sold by Orbis. I have some by Rio. A lot of people make them. And as you pull it off, what you notice is there are different colors, right? So you have orange here, you have white, you have green, okay? And then it starts all over again, okay? Orange, white, and green. So this is going to take the place of the tapered leader that we had in the Standard Nymph Rig, okay? And you really don't need more than, let's say, I like to cut it above the color that I'm going to use. So let's say for this rig, I'm going to take, it's probably about 36 inches, about 3 feet. So I'm going to trim my cider material, okay, to where I have about, it's not quite 36 inches, but almost there, okay? So this is going to take the place of your tapered leader portion. I'm trying to make sense of it with regards to what I just showed you, okay? And when you fish it, you have these different colors hanging over the water. And you can adjust your depth. You can fish it to where, okay, I'm going to start here. Oh, are they 6 inches deeper? Then my orange portion needs to be in the river. Oh, they're deeper than that. Then my green portion needs to be in the river, and so on and so forth. And you can keep going deeper and deeper, right? But these are more similar to tippet sections. They do not come with a perfection loop. And I would still recommend, because most fly lines, really good fly lines, are going to come with a welded loop, right? So I like to tie in a perfection loop into my cider material. There's a lot of different ways. You don't have to do that. You can cut the welded loop off your fly line if you want and use a blood knot. You can do whatever you want to do, right? Whatever works for you. I was talking to my friend Eli Gonzalez, and he's like, at the end of the day, you have all these methods, and you have to do what you're confident in. You have to do what you feel is your best chance of feeling confident in your rig and catching fish, right? So I like the loop-to-loop connection, and I can also just slide this whole leader off the fly line if I want with the loop-to-loop, and put something else on if I want, right? So here is my cider, okay? It's about, it actually is almost 3 feet in length, okay? You can go shorter, you can trim it, if you want, but you can also just fish it right there, okay? So this particular cider that I just pulled off, because it was this one, is a 0x cider, okay? You can go 2x, 0x or 2x. Those are going to be your your cider material sizes that you're going to see standard on the shelf, and that's pretty good. I think 0x is nice for fishing heavier rigs. If you know you're really going to be fishing big water with fish that eat big bugs, it's nice to have that extra strength, right? But these cider materials are very strong. If not, if you're fishing a tailwater and you need more delicate approach, you can go 2x. Now, why 0x to 2x? Well, the thinner your leader material becomes, the thinner your cider, the thinner your tippets, it cuts through the water much easier, right? So the thicker materials are going to take longer to cut through the water and get into the zone. The thinner materials are going to get there quicker. So now the amount of weight you add really helps that, right? But it's still something to consider, right? So that's why 0x to 2x, right? So now from here, now we have to connect what we're actually going to be fishing with. Okay, so since we're on 4x for our standard nymph rig, let's say 4x again. Let's say I'm fishing big water. I'm going to be fishing, for 5 to 10 pound trout. You know, we're in this amazing place. So I want to, well, that's way too short. I want to have the added strength, right? So the first one I'm going to show you how to do from the sider is where the split shot is going to be the very last thing at the terminal end of our entire system, our assembly, right, that we're building here, our nymph rig. So you need to, if I'm fishing a river that's on average 3 feet deep, then I'm going to take at least 3 feet of tippet, maybe even a little more, right, 4 or 5, up to maybe 2 times the depth of the average depth of the river you're fishing, right? But at least 3 feet. If the average river depth is 3 feet, you need at least 3 feet of tippet, okay, from your cider material. So I'm going to take, that's about 5. That's about 5 feet. So I'm going to take this piece of tippet. So you can't really see it, right? But you can see my wingspan there, a whole 5 feet. Hey, 5.5, man, 5.5. But you're going to connect this piece of tippet to your cider material, okay? Now, 4X is pretty tough stuff, so you could just use a triple surgeon's knot here, but an even more effective knot is the blood knot because you have different material and you have different sizes, okay, of material. So I'm going to actually use a blood knot. If you don't know how to do the blood knot, refer to my video on the blood knot in the Fly Fishing Academy. I've done that too. You're starting to get the picture here, right? I'm building a system, a video library where if you had to, all you have to do is go to that library and you can be on the water and you can be fishing from beginner up to advanced, even up to advanced, okay? So I've used a blood knot and I know I've tied it correctly because those strands are going opposite directions. Put it closer to my chest. You can see the leader, the tip of material is going up and the cider material is going down, okay? And now, of course, once again, we're going to trim our tags. You don't need to trim them right up to where there's absolutely no tag. I left a little bit of tag. And the advantage of using single size materials, so this whole strand is not tapered, right? It's all one size. It's 2X or it's 0X, whatever material you picked. And then I have my tippet material, which is also one size. In this case, it's 4X, all right? So the advantage of that over the tapered leader is that a tapered leader is going to sink at an unequal rate, right? You have the thin parts coming down faster, the thick parts floating on top of the water, okay? With this stuff, it's all sinking at pretty much at one rate because it's all the same size. It's cutting through the water at the same rate. So that's one advantage as well. So now from this point, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with my tag end of my leader, I'm just going to tie a simple overhand knot, okay? And you can add, you can do it a couple times if you want to, but this is going to act as the stop for your split shot at the bottom of your rig, okay? If you don't add a knot there, your split shot's going to fall right off. Okay. So I have now added me a little stop for my split shot. All right. And what you can do at this point is you can add your shot, right? And you start small and work your way up. You know, start with smaller pieces. The heavier your rig gets, the more cumbersome it's going to get to cast it, okay? And so what we want to do is we want to start light, and if we feel like we're still not in the zone, then we can add shot as we move on. Get this. Don't use your teeth to put your shot on. And the nice thing is with these shots as well is that we can take them off pretty easily. They're not very hard to get off. Okay, so let me give you a quick overview. Got my cider material, which is going to connect to my fly line with the loop-to-loop connection, or you can use a blood knot. Got my my tippet material coming off my sider. The sider is going to be my indicator, basically, right? It's going to be something that I can see. It's highly visible. It's going to be up in the air. And then I have my tippet material, which is going to be submerged, right? And it's a single piece of tippet. You know, I'm fishing a river that's 3 feet deep on average, so I went with 4 to 5 feet of tippet material. This is more like 5, yeah, closer to 5, 5.5. And then I added a split shot at the very bottom. So check this out now, okay? Let's look at how this standard nymph rig, see if I don't get it all tangled up here. Here's the standard nymph rig, right? What we built. Tapered leader, indicator on the thick portion of my leader, tapered leader, split shot above the connection that I built there with the triple surgeon's knot, and then I dropped off a fly. So my fly is at the bottom of my rig. Now when you cast this, that split shot is way heavier than the fly is. So what's going to be at the bottom? Your split shot is going to be on the on the bottom technically, and it's going to be dragging, go this way, dragging your fly through the water column like this. The flies slowly are sinking, right, with the split shot. What the drop shotting method, the tight lining method, the bait fishing method, I'm probably going to get a bunch of haters on that. What this does, this is when my dad used to do it. He would fish his fishing line straight at the bottom. He'd add weight, ton of weight, and then he would put flies. He would put his bait in between and here, and I'm going to show you how to do that, because that's what we do with the drop shotting method, tight lining method, whatever you want to call it. With this method, your whole system is tight. This is on the bottom, right? And you're keeping your sider up in the sky, rod tip pointed high, and you're drifting like this, right? You're high sticking over these runs, these pools, okay? And that's why the longer rod tends to help if you're using this system, because you don't have to reach so far, right? Your rod's already out there, and you're just waiting for that take, okay? But the advantage to this method is that everything is tight from your rod tip down to the split shot, okay? And now we add our flies, right? In between the split shot and our sider, we're going to add our flies, okay? We have, in this instance, in this case, I have 5 feet to work with, all right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick with 4X. You can vary the size depending on the flies you're fishing, the selectiveness of the trout you're fishing to. Okay. Take at least a foot of tippet. Okay. And what we're going to do is we are going to attach a fly using the triple surgeon's knot. If you don't know how to tie the triple surgeon's knot, refer to that video in the Fly Fishing Academy, and it will get you going in the right direction, okay? Let me cut my tag. Okay, so I have my sider to my split shot at the bottom. Now I'm adding flies that are going to hang off to the side from my split shot. And I would recommend starting with one fly with this system, because you're going to get tangled. You got more stuff going on here now. You can see it already wants to wrap itself around this tippet, right? So there's 2 ways to combat that. First, make sure the fly, even when it's hanging all the way down, does not touch your split shot, okay? The bottom fly. Because if this fly can touch that, the split shot and the fly are going to get tangled up. Okay, so make sure that. Second is the length of your tag to your fly. This is too long. Okay, this is definitely going to get tangled. So what you'll hear a lot of the people in this realm that consider tight lining, or whatever you want to call it, their forte, is you go with shorter, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one fly. Okay. Doesn't have to be heavy. because we have our weight at the bottom, right? You can put midges right here as your flies, and you have enough weight at the bottom to fish them, right? And they'll get into the right column. So let's go about 8 inches, because what happens if you have to, maybe you could reuse this length of tippet one time if you have to change flies, right? I'm just using a clinch knot. Wet it, pull it tight, trim your tag. Okay, so let me give you a quick overview now. So you have your sider connected to your fly line. You have your tippet material connected to your sider by a blood knot. You have a length of tippet you've selected based on the depth of the river. I'm fishing a 3-foot on average deep river, so I went with 4 or 5 feet of tippet. It's actually a little bit longer. That's okay. And then I added my split shot and stopped it. I put a knot at the bottom of there to stop that split shot from sliding off my rig. And then I added my fly with a triple surgeon's knot. When you first use this method, if all you've ever done is use the standard nymph rig where you have an indicator, put an indicator to help you transition to no indicator, right? Because with fishing without an indicator for at first is a little weird, unless you're a bait fisherman and you've been doing it your whole life. But this was no big deal for my dad, because my dad fished Tight-Line his whole life with a bait rod and an open face reel. So, but this is the indicator, right? And because it's tight, because your system's tight, this split shot is going to be ticking along the bottom of the river. And so this fly is in the right column, right? And that really, where you put that fly really does depend where the fish are eating. And that's why it is helpful to have multiple flies. You can have one, a foot off the river bottom, and then you can have another one 2 feet off the river bottom. So you're hitting the 2 different columns, okay? But this is tight, and you're fishing it through the system. As soon as you see your sider move, right, down, you're gonna, or feel that line tighten more. The strikes are typically pretty aggressive. You set the hook, right? It's that, and that is the system. Now, in a drop shotting method, let's say you're like, man, I'm flowing through there. I don't think I'm getting deep enough. You can add another split shot, right? And like I said, you start with one and then go up. And let's say I want to add a split shot here. You don't want it right on top of the other split shot, okay? You want it, at least an inch away. So now I got 2 split shots. Now I'm getting heavier and heavier, right? But you still feel like you're not down. You can add yet another split shot, right? And this is the beautiful thing about this method, is that you can add as much weight as you need to in increments to hit different depths, right? And get down quicker. So now you can look how heavy it's getting, right? Play with that. If you're in a big river, you're not catching fish, play with your depth, right? And I'll have to do another video on actually how to fish this rig, but at least now you know how to set it up. But don't be afraid to add weight. Don't be afraid to add more shot to get down to where the fish are at, right? And then you can play with, just like I added that tag right there, you can add another tag right above it and fish 2 flies. But first, fish one, okay, with this rig, because it's gonna feel quite different than it is to fish the standard indicator rig. The main difference between this and a true Euro rig is you're still gonna use a sider in Euro fishing, right? You're still gonna have this even piece of tippet material from your sider down to your terminal end. But instead of adding split shot here at the bottom of the rig, a pure Euro nymphing rig does not do that, okay? A pure Euro nymphing rig, you would actually attach a fly here at the bottom. And why is that? Well, in Euro nymphing, the idea is that the fly is heavy enough to eliminate the need for split shot at the end. If you do your own research, do your own reading, do your own fishing, you're going to find that unless you're fishing, let me see if I even have, see if I have any of those big bugs here. If you're fishing, I don't know where they're at, guys. Sorry, bear with me. I don't know how many flies I have in this one. Let's see. So these would be more of a Euro. I'll put a close-up of this fly, but you'll see it's typically tied on a jig fly, right? And it's facing down. The bead is facing down, so that the hook doesn't get snagged so much on the bottom or whatever, right? And in the standard Euro rig, you would eliminate the shot altogether in a pure Euro rig, and you would just add your bottom fly would sit here instead of the split shot, okay, right at the end. But again, my point is, I fish rivers where no matter how heavy, how much weight they put into these Euro style flies, it just doesn't get down, you know. And for example, like the Rio Grande River here in New Mexico, you got class 4 rapids. These trout are living in crazy water, you know. And I'm telling you right now, that little Euro fly right there, it's not going to do the trick to get down quickly. And so, in my opinion, the drop shot, where you have the ability to add more shot to the bottom of your rig, that outperforms the Euro rig in certain circumstances, right? Now, I do know plenty of guys, and I do myself. That's what I was trying to find. I was trying to find you one of my larger stone flies. It must be in my other bag. Anyways, these big princes are kind of the biggest ones I have in here. This prince nymph, the whole body of it has lead in it. It's tapered. It's beadless, but it's pretty heavy. But I have stone flies that are, you know, twice as long and 3 times as heavy as this. Now, if I'm fishing that really does act as like three split shots at the end of a drop shot rig, right? But even then, what if you still need more weight? I mean, so I like the Euro style rig because it's clean, right? And it seems to tangle less. This right here can become a mess, this split shot part right here. But you keep them apart so that, for different reasons, but you keep them apart so that if this one gets snagged at the bottom, you can pull and hopefully just lose the shot, right? And you don't lose all 3 shots or your whole rig, right? With the Euro rig, if the fly does get snagged at the bottom, you're going to lose a fly instead of a split shot. You know, I mean, little things like that. But they're both built on the same premises, you know, on the same premise of having a tight system. There's going to be tightness from the last fly to the tip of your rod, right? There's no slack. And in that system, as you're drifting, the moment you feel a trout eat or bump your fly, you set the hook. And so there's not a tight liner I've met that does not feel like they catch more fish, they detect more strikes with a tight line system in place. So I recommend you try them out. And like I said, you can mix and match these rigs up. These are just kind of the standard, right? So this would be a drop shot instead of the split shot. Put a Euro fly here at the bottom, no split shot at all. There's your Euro rig, right? And then you can what if you're not comfortable with just a sider first? Well, add you an indicator. If you don't, and then move your indicator up and down on the sider. You kind of are mixing and matching the systems to do what makes you feel comfortable and what you feel is going to work best to get you in the right depth, right? Where are the fish eating? That's the whole point of all of nymphing. Where are the fish eating? How do I get my flies into that strike zone, right? And how do I get that fish to eat my fly? That's the whole point of nymphing, right? And these systems, don't get so caught up with, oh yeah, I'm a Euro Nympher, or I'm a drop shotter, or whatever. I like to tell people, I got asked, what do I do? Like at the San Juan River. I've had a lot of success there. You can, if you live on the San Juan River, you can go and catch a 5-pound fish every day, up to a 10-pound fish every single day. They're all over the place, right? And the way I fish, I don't typically blind fish. I'm sight fishing for the fish that I want at that river like that. So people ask me, what do I do and what do I use there? I will use any method I have to catch the fish that I want to catch. Period. If I got to add shot at the bottom, if that ain't working, I need to add a heavy fly at the bottom, get rid of the shot. If I need to add an indicator I'll do whatever I have to do to catch fish. To catch the fish, specifically the fish that I want. These systems are so good. This is what you're going to see people doing in competition fly fishing, because they're showing up to a river typically they've never fished. They have no familiarity with it. They've done some research. I'm sure if a lot of rivers fish similar, but these are great blind fishing setups here. And when I say blind fishing, is you're rolling up to a run, you can't see fish, you're hoping they're there, but you're covering different columns, different portions of that run to try and find them, right? And these are good searching rigs. That's what I like to call them. They're searching rigs and good blind fishing rigs. And so they will work well. You know, do you need them to catch a fish that you can see with your eyes that's maybe 10 feet away from you? No, you don't. You just need to know how fast your flies are sinking. You need to know where to cast and present that fly to that fish. And you can use split shot. You can use heavy flies. You have to use some kind of weight to get down, right? I mean, there needs to be some kind of system. But when you can see the fish eating, that changes things, right? But these are great blind fishing rigs, and you're going to hear about them in fly fishing if you haven't already. I just want to go over all three of them again briefly, and maybe even put up some illustrations to help you with these rigs. So you got your standard nymph rig, starts with a perfection loop. You'll make the loop-to-loop connection with your fly line. I showed you how to do that in the loop-to-loop connection video. Check that out. You'll have an indicator somewhere between your split shot and your fly line, okay, depending on the depth of the river you're fishing. You'll make a connection between a piece of tippet and the end of your leader, right? And the size of tippet you use depends on the size of your tippet in a way, but the size of your leader. This was a 4X leader. I just used 4X tippet. I could have used 5X tippet and been perfectly fine. And then off of the 5X, I could have dropped 6X to a second fly if I wanted to. But the split shot rests on top of the connection that I made with the triple surges knot between my tippet and my leader. And then you have your fly at the very bottom connected with the clinch knot. Simple. And then you can drop another fly off of this using the eye of the hook. Just send a piece of tippet through the eye, clinch knot there, piece of tippet down, clinch knot to a second fly. Then you have a double nymph rig. Okay, that's a standard nymph rig. Second rig I showed you was of the Tight-Line family, the searching rigs, as I like to call them. I created a loop with my cider material that'll connect to my fly line with a loop-to-loop connection. Then you'll have a piece of tippet, a length of tippet. This really depends on the length of the depth of the river you're fishing, because this is what's really going to be in the water. Your cider is going to go into the water. If your river is real deep and you got to use all full length of your tippet, your cider might be down, you know, to where all you can see is those first two sections of it. But I went. This is a 0X cider. Okay, I connected my tippet and my cider with a blood knot. This was a 5.5 foot length of tippet. All one size. It's 4X. I created just a simple overhand knot at the bottom of my rig to stop these split shots from sliding off, right? And I started with one split shot. Start with one. Add another if you need to. If you're not getting down fast enough, add a third if you need to, and then keep them about an inch, or so apart, just for tingles and all that sake. In case you lose one, you don't lose them all. And then in between the end of my rig and my cider, I added my fly. make sure your fly, however length of tippet you use, does not touch your split shot. Okay, the fly needs to be above your split shot. And this fly is, you know, even if it sinks completely down, is about a foot above my split shot. And if you feel like that's too high, you could have attached it a little bit lower. Just make sure that this fly is not touching the split shot when it hangs straight down. Okay, that'll avoid tangles. I connected that fly to my tippet with a triple surgeon's knot and 8 inches, and it's an 8-inch tag to my fly. Okay, and you can add a second fly with the same thing, at any depth you want. Triple surgeon's knot, 6 to 10 inch tag, fly, and then you have a double drop shot rig. Okay, double nymph rig with the drop shot method. And the Euro style is very similar to this, except instead of the split shot here at the bottom, you would just have a heavy Euro style fly. So a fly that has a lot of weight built into it. Okay, that would be a purist for the purist Euro nymphers out there. That would be more of a Euro style rig. Okay, and again, this is your indicator, you know, and I'm going to make a video showing how to actually fish rigs like this. But if you're new to it, don't be afraid to put an indicator on there, and then pick the indicator up off the water and just, you know, introduce yourself to it slowly. So those are the 3 nymph rigs that I wanted you to know how to build, and I want you to try to fish, and you decide what works best for you, and if you want to mix and match any of the techniques that you saw. So I hope you enjoyed that. There's a lot of other little things that you'll find people using. People like to use tippet rings, add tippet rings to these rigs. They like to add swivels to their rigs to save, you know, if you have to take tippet off and attach. I mean, there's a lot of different things, guys, and I'll introduce some of that stuff, you know, as we continue on in the Fly Fishing Academy. But my main goal today was to show you how to create these 3 really important nymph rigs in fly fishing. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, please like and share this video with your friends, and I will see you next time. Thanks for your time, and thanks for watching. Take care.